Check out this epic camera comparison video between the Huawei P30 Pro, the Xiaomi Mi 9, and we're chucking in an iPhone for good measure. Daytime, nighttime, photo, video, and checking out that zoom camera on the P30 Pro. You're in for a good one. Watch till the end to find out everything you need to know about these cameras. Really excited to do this camera test. We've got the Huawei P30 Pro versus the Xiaomi Mi 9. We're going to chuck in a Canon camera and an iPhone just to see how these two measure up to those two devices. I'm using the selfie cameras on both of these now, and just looking at the screen, I would say that the Xiaomi has more detail in the clouds than the Huawei. The Huawei is using HDR and AI to recognize my face. Just look at my skin tones. How are they compared to each other? Now, we're not going to walk around because I am on the top of a building and it's been raining. It's a bit dangerous, but you can just check out the audio of these two devices. And let's use these zoom cameras and see what results we're getting out of that zoom camera in the Huawei. So let's just see how good this zoom camera is. Let's put the Huawei next to the Xiaomi. This is on ultra wide, then going onto the main camera, then onto 2x zoom. Actually, both of them look pretty similar. 5x zoom, again, I think they look really similar. 10x zoom. That is the most the Xiaomi goes to. They look okay. Now, 50x zoom. Oh my goodness. 50x zoom on the Huawei, and you're getting an image that looks okay. So let's just see, where is that thing that we've just photographed? There, that's where it is. It's literally a mile away. 50x zoom, you can actually see what people are doing inside the building. Incredible. And that is 10x zoom on the Xiaomi, as you can see there. I actually don't think this image looks bad. I think it's really good, but 50x zoom on the Huawei is just unbelievable. You can read the writing on this building site here. If we zoom out to the ultra wide, just to give you an idea of how far that is away, it's there. That thing that you could see is so far away. This zoom camera is just so impressive on the Huawei. So both of these phones have a triple camera setup on the back. The Huawei adding in a time of flight sensor on there as well. They both have high megapixel main cameras. They both have ultra wide cameras, and they both have zoom cameras. Just using the ultra wide camera, taking some video on the Huawei P30 Pro. So when you use both of these cameras side by side, the P30 Pro and the Xiaomi, it becomes immediately obvious that the P30 Pro definitely has extra functionality over the Xiaomi. You just get so much more range in the camera. That zoom is just crazy. You get 2x optical zoom in the Xiaomi, 5x optical in the Huawei, but then it just goes on and on and on with digital zoom that you can get. But in terms of the quality of the normal pictures put up against the iPhone as well, the colors are good on all of them, and they take really good looking photos. Let's have a look at some of the photos. It's just about colors, which one you like more, which one you like the exposure of more, but it's all about the zoom camera on this Huawei. This is the ultra wide. Can you even see the truck in the background? Look forward down to the middle of the horizon. Can you even see the truck there? That's it, zoomed in 50 times. It is clear as day. You can read the writing on the truck. Of course, we're getting so much more functionality out of the Huawei with that zoom camera, but looking at normal photographs side by side out of that main camera, there actually isn't a huge difference between any of these phones. So you have to ask yourself if that extra zoom is worth the extra money. When it comes to video though, there's a massive difference between the Xiaomi and the Huawei. I'm going to come into the park here and show you what I mean. Just using these two phones side by side, it becomes really clear just how much more functionality you get out of the Huawei, especially in video, because the zoom during video is just so much better. On the Huawei, you get 15x zoom. On the Xiaomi, you get 10x zoom. But Zoom on the Xiaomi is all digital zoom, whereas on the Huawei, you're getting some of that optical zoom as well. It's also just a lot easier to use the P30 Pro zooming in and out because you have a slider bar that you can change zoom. On the Xiaomi, if you want to zoom in, you have to pinch the screen. It's not very accurate and it's not that easy to do. So definitely the P30 Pro is easier to use here. If we just look at the difference between the zooms on these, look how close the Huawei gets into the subject, and I would say that that image is still usable. It hasn't lost too much detail. Using these two side by side, I noticed that the Xiaomi definitely got grainier and very noisy when I was zooming in, mainly because it's all digital zoom on that camera. Let's take a look at another scene to show you what I mean by that. So these two are zooming in on this bird, and it's just so easy on the Huawei to just press the button to zoom in, and you just get so much more functionality from the camera app. I also feel like it's keeping more detail and there's less noise and less grain in the image. If we make the test fair and zoom in 10 times on both of these cameras, that's not the full extent of the Huawei, you can see the Xiaomi is noisy and grainy, whereas the Huawei, that image still looks okay and is probably usable in a video. Let me just show you what I mean by the slider bar on the Huawei photo app. You can see down in the bottom here, you can just press those little buttons to zoom in 1, 5, 10 times, and then from 10 you can just slide it up all the way up to 50 times zoom. That's taking photos. Video is 15 times zoom, but it's so easy to use that slider and then you just take your photograph. All right, let's just see how these phones do with some stabilization. So I'm just holding them, walking around, and I want to see how this Kirin 980 does up these stairs, because people say that the Huawei is really good at images but not so good with video, so we're going to have to see what it's like. I tested the Xiaomi before and man, that was smooth as butter, honestly. No optical image stabilization on that one, on the Xiaomi, but it was still so smooth using that Snapdragon 855. What I can see on the screen, Xiaomi looks crazy stable as well. Something really cool about the Huawei as well is straight in video, you can just change wide angle, zooming in. Let's just see how the stabilization is zooming in 5 times. It looks pretty shaky to me. Actually, on the screen, the Xiaomi does look more stable than the Huawei. So just going back to normal 1-time zoom, just to give them a fair run out. We know that the iPhone has really great stabilization, but the Huawei and the Xiaomi look really good. We'll have to wait until the videos are processed just to see how good they really are. So how do the camera apps differ across these phones? I've got the Huawei on the left, Xiaomi in the middle, and the iPhone on the right. Have a look how easy it is to slide in and out of zoom on the Huawei using that slider. On the Xiaomi, you have to pinch and touch the screen, and it's just not as accurate. On the Huawei, you have ultra wide, 1, 5, 10 times zoom straight away. It's a really easy way to use the camera app, and it makes things a lot easier. All three of these phones have a portrait mode. The Xiaomi and the Huawei have night mode as well. That's something you don't get on the iPhone. You can take square images if that's what you like, but there's no night mode. In terms of panorama, they all have it, but on the Huawei, you have to go to this more option and then choose panorama from that. That's not as convenient as the Xiaomi, which has it directly in that scroll bar at the bottom. Another great feature that both the Xiaomi and Huawei share is Pro mode. The iPhone doesn't give you that in the native camera app. You have to buy apps that allow you to use Pro modes, but the Xiaomi and the Huawei have it natively. You can change shutter speed, ISO, and even focus and white balance all manually within the native camera apps on both the Android phones. It may not be something you want to use a lot, but it gives you a lot of functionality just in case. The 48 megapixel mode on the Xiaomi is directly in the camera app, whereas on the Huawei you have to go to a different settings page and change it from there. So it's not as convenient as the Xiaomi. Slow motion, if you want that, is directly in the camera app on the Xiaomi, but again on the Huawei, you have to go to a different settings page. You can open settings like this and change the resolution, or if you go out of this settings page, you can go to the More tab and you can choose slow-mo and some other settings from there. A feature I like on the Huawei is that after you've taken a photo, you can click on the Information tab in the top right-hand corner and it gives you the shutter speed, the ISO, and all of the settings that photo has. It's a really cool touch. Both of these cameras do super wide angle video, which is really useful because it means that I can film myself using the back cameras and I can be pretty certain that I am in shot. I can't see myself, but I can be pretty sure that I can shoot something with the back camera, which is good because the front cameras are never really that good. So one thing that I'd say shooting video on the P30 Pro versus the Xiaomi, the actual app itself, it's just so much richer on the Huawei. It's a better experience all round using the video on the Huawei over the Xiaomi. The zoom and the way you just use the app, it really is a lot easier and a lot better. One thing I would say is that when you do zoom in on the Huawei, it's a great feature, but it gets super blurry past about 5 times. And you're going to have to use a tripod or something to steady the shot. So I'm not sure how useful that extra zoom is. Even though it's a great feature, you do need a tripod, so it might not be something you use that often. Therefore, you're going to have to make the decision whether you want to pay the extra money to get it. It's nearing sunset now and I'm getting some really cool images. This is the iPhone. There's no night mode on the iPhone, but because it's sunset, you're getting some really nice colors here. But let's look at night mode on the Huawei and the Xiaomi. Look at that picture on the Xiaomi. That looks so cool. That is a really unique look. It's very cool. You can put that on Instagram straight away. Let's move on to portrait mode, or aperture mode as it's called on the Huawei. Who does the blurry background the best? I think they both do a really good job. Autofocus on both of these phones was not a problem. Both of them focused very quickly and I didn't have too many issues with the test that I ran here. One of these phones do in low light. It's nighttime now. This is not night mode. This is just normal photo mode on both of these phones. Again, very, very similar. This is normal photo mode, but look how bright the Huawei is compared to the Xiaomi. If we switch to night mode on both of these phones, look how the Xiaomi has brightened the image now, but actually the Huawei is about the same as normal photo mode. What I take from this is that during low light shots, Huawei automatically uses HDR and night mode to brighten the image. This is the iPhone, no night mode on that. This is a terrible picture, you can't use it. But let's just put that side by side with the Huawei. Oh my lord, it is literally night and day. That's not the same for video though. This is all three side by side, stabilized, so they all look fairly similar. But if you start walking around with the Xiaomi and the Huawei, you get this really weird effect that I didn't notice when I was filming. It's blurry or shaky and rolly and wavy. I don't know if that's the processor or the sensor, but it's trying to stabilize the image and it's getting it all wrong. So these shots are unusable. Whereas if you take the same shot taken with the iPhone, you're getting a much, much better image. You're not getting any of that weird waviness. This image is darker, but it is usable and much more representative of what the eye is actually seeing. Okay, one last shot, night mode on both of these. I just love this photo, so I wanted to show it. It looks great on both. Long day, big camera test. Actually, I would say using these two phones all day, they both have about the same functionality. Even though the Xiaomi is cheaper than the P30 Pro, you get a lot of the same features. On the spec sheet, maybe the P30 Pro just takes it with the extra optical zoom, and I really like the way in the camera app you can zoom from all the way zoomed in to all the way zoomed out using a slider. I don't know why the Xiaomi doesn't do that. But in terms of the functionality, high megapixel modes, slow motion, they're pretty much the same. So I guess the results are going to speak for themselves. Whichever one you like more, I guess that's the one you're going to choose.